Um, all right. Um, Glad to have you on the show. We caught up a lot before that, but I just want to
Yes.
record this part. So on the show we've got Peng Fei, who I met up in I think Beijing. I think like 10 years ago or
That's
7 years
right.
ago.
10 years ago, yeah.
Um, but we were talking about, but I just kind of want to tell the story of how we met. I don't know if you remember, but it was a bunch of tech guys in Beijing at a
Yeah, at
bar.
a bar, at the
At a
opposite
bar.
house. Yeah.
Was it? Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
then I was like, oh, I do martial arts. We were talking about hobbies, I think, and I was like, oh, I do
Yeah.
martial arts. And then you're like, oh yeah, I do. I think you were saying, oh yeah, I do some martial arts. So I was like, oh okay, somebody else that does martial arts.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, what do you do? And then I think you said Chen Tai Chi, and I was like, okay, at least this guy like is starting to get specific about which Tai Chi, right? So I was like, okay, all right. And then I was like, what's your name? I think I did ask you. I was like, what's your name again? And
Yeah.
then and then I was like, I put the two and two together.
Yeah.
And then I realized, yeah, you were like the 20th generation. What's the proper name? Like heritage?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah. Um yeah, heritage would sound good. Yeah, and then you
Yeah.
said you actually trained with my brother, and I was like,
Yes, that's
wow.
right. Yeah. So I sent you photos as well because I trained with your father and your brother
Yeah.
when they were in London, and that was many years ago. And then I had the gall to invite your brother. I was like, oh, you're my age. So actually, how old is he? I'm
He's
42.
7 years, so I'd say he's 47.
47? Yeah, we were close. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, like, it was after the train session. I was like, why don't you want to come with us for a beer? And yeah, so he came out, gave a few lessons, showed us a bit more, and then we went out for a beer. And I don't know if he remembers it, probably not.
Yeah.
But yes, but we were talking about like, expectations, of yeah, the difference between a professional teacher and then a lineage holder, right? And you're saying that the expectations are different, and I think that's why it's much harder for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
yeah, when you do this, I think, specifically for Tai Chi, if you do this as a profession, you have a lot of self-motivation. Like you have a lot of sort of like you set your own bar for where you want to achieve. And for people with a champion mindset who just wants to constantly, um, you know, exceed their own goals, they're gonna do super well.
mm,
Um, but there
mm,
comes to a point where maybe um, you don't have like a family that puts a lot of pressure and a lot of expectations on you. And I think you could either go, really like crazy, do really well, or you plateau and then you just feel like, I'm happy where I
got
am.
it.
So for me, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but from very young age, I started training when I was 3 years old. Um, I had this expectation set on me that, I am supposed to not only kind of, what do you call it, inherit, but also build upon, this great lineage that I am part of. And so the
Mm,
first part is to learn from my dad and also all of my relatives and all the great masters, including my kung fu brothers. Learn from them to be as good as them. But then that's only the beginning. Like I'm
mm,
expected to go from there. That's like my real beginning, and I go from there to achieve something like greater. So I think expectation is definitely one of the big differences. And it's both good and bad because with this kind of expectation comes with a ton of resources as well. It's not like they
mm,
expect me to do great and then just leave it to myself. I got a ton of support to make sure that I'm like a decent martial artist. But at the
And
same
this is
time,
meaning like
yeah.
your uncles and your cousins would open up their time to teach you.
Oh yeah, it wasn't like, I had to call them and schedule the time and be like, hey, I really want to learn. It was like, hey, we gotta train. Don't be lazy, and we're gonna train you so hard, and you're gonna like, cry at night, that kind of thing. So I didn't want to be trained by them, so I actively resisted. I was like, why would anyone pay you guys money, to learn? Like, I mean, you guys should pay me. Yeah, I mean, that was my sort of like perspective, and to this day, it kind of still is my kind of perspective because I always feel like, they're making me train so hard, but never giving me anything, doesn't make sense. So yeah, I got a ton of resources that nobody else had access to, like without asking. Like I don't ask them for anything; they just give it to me. But the kind of
Bring this up.
the bad thing about it, or the curse, is the internal motivation sometimes doesn't kick in until later. So
Mm.
resisting this as a kid because didn't want to do it. I just wanted to, I don't know, do some brain teasers or I was actually very interested in music and stuff. So I wanted to do that, but I had to do this martial art thing, which at the time wasn't really cool. Um, and so internal motivation
Well,
is
but let's also be fair, right? Like any kid would have the same uh, um, kind of thinking, right? It's like whenever your parents give you something, it's not cool,
mm,
right? And
not
so
cool.
I don't know if they were to teach you music, right? You'll probably say, I'm not interested in it. Um,
Yeah,
so and you kind of had to because I noticed when we met for a while you didn't do like you did CrossFit, you did like BJJ,
yeah,
and it
good memory.
feels
Yeah,
like but you showed me yeah, and you showed me a couple of techniques, and I was like, okay, you've got the power and the structure, but I guess you kind of had to find your way to Tai Chi or back to Tai Chi, but it was in your bones anyway, right? It's in your bones and it's in everything that you do. You just kind of had to find your way back to it somehow. I don't know. Do you feel the
yeah,
same? I felt that was it with for you because you did like weightlifting. And I was like, what are you doing all that for?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, my personal journey is very different from the rest of my family. So, I'm the first generation that kind of went to a real college, first generation that really
Mm,
grew up overseas, where there's a much, open-minded, much bigger open-minded kind of community. And as a kid, I met a lot of
right.
very interesting kung fu martial arts masters, not only in Chinese martial arts, also judo masters, wrestling, some Russian
Mm,
masters, Brazilian masters, Filipino masters, because they're all sort of like my dad's friends. And so I
right.
got to meet them as a kid, and I always thought they were just like really cool. Like what they do is real martial arts. What my dad does,
Oh
I mean,
gosh.
yeah,
Yeah,
I would say
it's for old
they
people.
were, yeah,
Right.
but they were all friends, so I got to meet a lot of martial artists from around the world. So I had a very curious mind. I
Mm,
wanted to learn their techniques. I wanted to learn, go beyond what I already know. And
mm,
so, with lifting weights or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or anything I did Krav Maga, I did Sistema, I did a lot of things. Um, it was just my curiosity at
mm,
play.
mm,
And my goal was not really to learn it for the sake of improving Tai Chi or anything like that. It was just because I was curious. Um, and I think after all of this, um, coming back to think about my family and everyone I know who's doing Tai Chi, the biggest improvements or the thing I want to change is not Tai Chi itself, but maybe the culture of the
mm,
community.
mm,
Instead of being closed-minded, we can be more open-minded. Instead of
mm,
being imperative about how things should be done, we can be a little, innovative or explorative, of different ways of doing things. So I think for any martial arts, any kind of style of martial arts or whatever that's been around for hundreds of years, there's always a challenge with being open-minded, and I
Mm,
think if we can break that boundary,
mm,
we're just at the beginning of a new age of exploration of what our bodies are capable of, the secrets or the mysteries of the human body. And I think that's very exciting. So Tai Chi, what it is, today, I think could be so much more. And it doesn't even have to be called Tai Chi, it's just, an exploration of the human body and mind. So
because when you're doing the Krav Maga stuff, when you're doing the Sema stuff, did you notice like the way you moved and the way like you can still do the moves, right? You can do an uppercut, you can do an elbow, but the way you generated power was already very different to begin with, right? So again, you can learn the elbow, right? You can do the uppercut, but the way you built it into your body and took that technique into your body was just fundamentally different.
Well, I think so. Yeah. It's not like the way I do it is fundamentally different. More like the way I see the master or the Krav Maga teacher do it is
Mm,
fundamentally similar to how I would do it too. And by that, what I mean is like in Tai Chi, you're relaxed, and
mm,
when you're relaxed, it gives you speed and power, right? And stuff like that. But when I was learning Krav Maga with beginners,
mm,
a lot of them are really tense, and
mm,
so like they just focus on the moves. But if you look at my instructor, who's been doing this for a very long time, he teaches the moves, but he
mm,
doesn't teach how to relax and how
mm,
to get the speed. So I think Tai Chi is a good complement to that. Like,
mm,
Tai Chi, the forms doesn't matter as much, right? I mean, the
mm,
forms are almost symbolic now, but you're constantly practicing this flow of energy. And the end result is you end up with this relaxed posture that is constantly connected. Like all parts of your
right.
body, energy wise, is constantly connected, and it can be in any form. But Tai Chi in today's practice, I think, lacks the practical forms of Krav Maga. So imagine like marrying,
Mm, mm,
a
mm,
formless kind of energy system with
mm,
Krav Maga, like a very effective modern combat system. I think that could be
mm,
powerful. But at the end, like, I see the master who's doing Krav Maga. He has mastered Tai Chi in some aspect, I
right,
think,
right,
but he
right.
just doesn't think about it. He just think, oh, this is the like the best way to do Krav Maga. But in my mind, I mean, this guy, he's got the flow nailed down and everything.
Because I heard Tai Chi basically, someone once said to me was actually Tai Chi is actually still reeling, basically.
Yeah.
If you sit it all down, that's all basically it. So whether you do a form this way or that way, the 13 moves or 58 moves or 108, it boils down to silk reeling. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true, but I mean, I think it's trying to simplify it too much that it becomes too abstract and less useful. We need to disaggregate this. So what does it mean to do silk reading, right? We have to break down this one single concept into smaller manageable pieces so that people can actually understand it. I mean, yeah. Um,
What in your way? Take a stab. How would you distill silk reeling?
uh, a
Give it a
great
go.
question.
Give it a go.
Give it a go. Well, I think silk reeling as like a combo of simple movements is trying to make Tai Chi into Lego bricks. So each movement of silk reeling is a building block of the 38 or 19 form. So that was the original purpose. So imagine learning 19 different movements or 38 movements, it will take some mental, you know,
Mm,
capacity to remember the moves. But silk reeling is like you just have to remember one simple movement at a
mm,
time, and then once you learn the combos, you know, it's like Lego bricks for Tai Chi. But it's breaking it down into pieces that are almost like too small that you don't see how these Lego bricks can actually build into a house. So,
mm,
um, so to use the Lego analogy, learning the traditional forms is like having a house made out of plastic, you know.
mm,
Silk reeling is just Lego bricks, and so sometimes you don't see the connection. And so, but in reality, what we need, I think, um, is to
throwing up a
have
video
silk
here.
reeling, yeah, to have silk reeling, like the movements, but also to have an instruction manual to say, hey, now you know silk reeling. How do you turn these simple movements that looks like some old guy doing it in the park into
Which is literally what he
which is
with
literally what you
pajamas.
see, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, with
how does
pajamas.
this connect to better health, or how does this connect to applications for some kind of combat, or how does this connect to whatever use case you want to make it to? So yeah, I mean these are just building blocks with no
Mm,
connection to the end user kind of goal, and I think
mm,
that's the problem.
mm,
Um, yeah, so you can say that everything is just Legos, right? Everything is
mm,
just a building block, but you
mm,
also have to connect it back to, so, okay, so how do I get to what I want from here?
mm.
Yeah.
And talking about expectations, right? Do you think then, therefore, the expectations, because to let people know, you've got brothers, right? You've got siblings,
Yes.
and I'm sure they also have the expectations. Some choose and some don't. And those that want to continue that, I mean, it's not possible that everybody would have the same expression of what that expectation is, right? So do you think, you know, that expectation is not necessarily just to take the forms and just go, but whether it's like the cultural concept or whether it's like changing the form or whether it's like not changing the form, it's okay to find your own expression, or is it in the family? It's like no, you have to just continue the form and no changes.
That's a great question. So I don't speak for the family, and I'm very different from my family. I think the prevailing thought is, especially in like my part of China, not just in my family, but we're talking about a part of China that's very conservative. That are children are just supposed to follow what their elders say. So we have a culture of that. So naturally, as just one small family in a big area, that's true for my family too. You're not supposed to challenge too much. You're not supposed to, have your own thoughts, because doing that would seem not humble enough, or not, what do you say, like
Who
you
are
don't have,
you? Who are
yeah,
you
who
to?
are you to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
we have a new
right.
way? You should be more humble. But I grew up in Australia and also the States, and over there, like, people are encouraged to have independent thought, critical thinking, and stuff like
Mm,
that. And so I'm heavily influenced by that, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So I'm constantly challenging. Like, I think that there's no dumb questions to ask. And maybe, although I don't have decades of experience practicing, I have a fresh perspective. I
mm,
have new eyes. I can offer new ideas. And I think it was a Nobel laureate that once says, like, to get a good idea, you need to have a lot of ideas. So even
mm,
if I have a ton of bad ideas, I still feel like it is my obligation to speak out. And so I've been doing that for a long time,
mm,
just not being heard, but I always speak out, and regardless of what they think or what they say, I keep on exploring. So I've been doing yoga for many years. I do meditation. I do all kinds of other martial arts, and I'm trying to synthesize all of this
mm,
together with my training in Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I think a lot of Tai Chi has been lost throughout the ages. It hasn't been like how they portrayed, like one generation to the next generation to the next generation without loss. It hasn't been like that. It has been constantly degrading, like degrading, and we have so few of what was original left in
Really?
today's. I think so. I think so. And this is a
Even
result.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. Finish the thought first. Yeah. Sorry.
And I think this is the direct result of each generation, or yeah, I'd say each generation not asking the questions and
Mm,
just basically passively absorbing. So
mm.
imagine that for 3 generations, let alone 20. So how
Right.
much do you think is left?
It's
And I
it's like
think
one of those games, right? It's like I say something to one ear, and then right, and at the end, it's like totally different, right?
it's
Opposite
totally
of
different.
right.
So yeah, luckily we have some text which was, passed on a couple generations ago. But the thing is, I feel like nobody even reads those texts anymore because it's
Is that
so
right?
archaic. Yes, it's so difficult to understand. They use different like words. They use different kind of diagrams. But I got a copy of this when I was like in my teenagers, and I opened it up, and I thought it was the coolest thing. Like
This
it
is
explained so many things that didn't make sense in my mind, just in the book. And it's called Taiji Tushuo by Chen Xin or something like that. I'll send you the name of the book. And it has so much like, you know, information that was new to me. So,
and this is
yeah.
and Chen Qing is your uncle or
No, this is
granduncle?
like my grandfather's grandfather or something. Hold
Oh
on, this
wow,
this guy is old.
that's so
Yeah,
cool.
but he is known. Uh, yeah. Okay, so it's on Amazon. I'll send it to you.
So he is. All right, so let's see, where is this? Chen Qing, this one,
Yep.
1849.
Yep. I think so. Yep.
So he is before Chen Faka.
Yeah. Yep. That's the guy.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, with text, it is a very important technology for some ideas to be passed down, and I think we should really study that as well as kind of like, I mean, sometimes to preserve, you gotta keep using it, like to keep on
Mm,
challenging and then try to understand because and we also have to diversify out of this idea of a family's responsibility to keep the lineage flowing. I mean, it doesn't make sense. There are like, millions of people practicing. Why does it, just depend on a small family? So it has to be more open source. It has to be more like collaborative and less
this
about
I disagree with you.
you.
May I?
Okay. All
I
right.
think
Why?
I think so. I'm I follow the like I lived in England for many years, right? Where I met your brother and your dad, and so I'm very well attuned to that culture, and I follow the monarchy and everything. And to some degree, the monarchy is there's no practical use for it anymore, right? It's symbolic, but very similar to that, I think you represent it's the symbolism, and I think that's also important. I mean, again,
Hmm.
it's not practical 100%, but I think that there's a symbol of a standard of what it kind of should be, and
Interesting.
and that gives people hope. I mean, the monarchy gives hope, right? It
Yeah.
is the culmination of the best of the United Kingdom, right? And so if you see the titles and everything, it's like Prince of Wales, right? Because they conquered Wales, and so put that in, and then Scotland, and they take all rituals and icons of all the different places they conquered and just kind of put it together. And that's like the best of the nation. That should be. And I feel that the family, you know, it represents the best of Tai Chi, the original, right? Now, whether
Yeah.
it is or it isn't, I think that's a different question. But and it represents an evolution. It should, right? It has to.
Huh.
But I think
Interesting.
nonetheless, it is a symbol. Yeah, and the monarchy has changed, and it continues to evolve. There's
Yeah.
always people saying, "Hey, we should not have a monarchy anymore. It's too expensive." But
Hmm.
it's a symbol. And you know
That's
why
a good
symbols
point.
are important?
Hmm.
Symbols are important when when it's all everything's good. Symbols are not important. People are like, there's enough wealth and everything. Symbols, monarchies. I mean, I'm just speaking of monarchy, are important when times are bad because it makes you
Yeah.
aspire to be better. It
Hmm.
appeals to the best self of everybody. And I don't know what times are bad in Tai Chi. I don't know what that means, but I think symbolism, I think, matters.
Oh, interesting. You know, I never thought about it that way, but now you mention it, I think it's a good point. And to add to it, I think there are bad times in Tai Chi for sure. Like, for
Really?
example, yeah, like when teaching this thing becomes, you know, financially unattractive.
Ah,
Maybe a lot of people will just give up, right? They'll give up Tai Chi and then let's say they do something else.
mm,
So if we leave it to the sort of like the market forces, there is a real chance that for whatever external environment, this thing will never, you know, continue. But I think for someone like me or people in my family, they have a real honor and like sense of pride in this thing,
mm,
and it's almost like they're zealots, you know, like they would continue to preserve and uphold the standard regardless of, you know, whether this will make any money. They'll put in all of their life savings into this thing for no practical like financial logic, you know,
mm,
like so a lot of these old masters I know, they spend like their entire lives like accumulating, you know, some form of wealth, and
mm,
eventually what they do is they just go back to Chen Village, spend it all on Chen Village, making the village better and also teaching their children and other younger people. And I think
mm.
that's their mission. And I think having a like a tradition like that, art like that preserved in a family has a benefit of you having these people who would do it for, you know, very simple
Nothing.
reasons for
Right.
nothing. Yeah, pretty much for nothing. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know they would, I'm sure things are modernized, right? So they go and make money, but they still
Yeah.
come back and they spend their money.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I sometimes I feel like what is the point of them making money, you know, because they just go right back to the village. And instead of building a nice house, they build a like a dojo, you know,
Mm,
like a training ground.
mm,
And so that's why Chen Village is full of like these training schools and stuff like that.
mm.
And I sometimes feel like, hey, you could just buy a house, you know, in LA or yeah, somewhere like that. Why would you like come back to this land that has extremely hot summers and extremely cold winters? And but I think it's to them because they grew up there, they have a real sense of, you know, pride to the family art. There's no better place in the world than to live where their ancestors lived, well, I
Mm.
guess including mine. And there's no greater purpose in life than to continue the art. So I think that's the difference. And I think, yeah, it does make sense to have a family still around. Yeah, because there are still lots of Chens out there, and I think, yeah, like as long as there's still a Chen family member out there, they'll have this um, mission in their life.
How big is the family now? Your generation?
Good question. So the lineage is a little bit complicated, but from my direct like sort of like line, we have
Right.
seven. So I'm number
That's it.
six. That's it. Yeah. But then there are also side branches and stuff like that. So with all of that, it gets more complicated. Like, who counts as part of the lineage, who doesn't, and stuff like that.
Oh,
But
sorry. This is just the Tai Chi mastery side. It's not the like just anybody with a Chen name,
no, yeah,
right?
yeah, and stuff. So yeah, and but they have like a council, and the
Oh, really?
council, yeah, have elders that decides and stuff like that. I'm not sure.
You
And I
you know part of your thing, and again I'm trying here. I'm so pardon me if I if maybe I insult, but
no
is
worries.
it the politics that you're not like that doesn't give you the good vibes?
The politics.
Are there
No,
politics?
like I think it's just the like-mindedness. Like I
Okay.
find it very difficult to have a conversation with people that are not on the same page, that have never done yoga, Krav
Mm,
Maga, BJJ, stuff like that,
mm,
and who are um, so determined, like
mm,
in their thought. I'm more like I think I'm constantly updating my views based on new information and data, and
mm,
I'm always curious, to find out if I'm wrong.
mm.
And I get pretty happy when I discover something new and if I'm wrong. But it's not like that with everyone. And so yeah, I mean, my training is an individual thing. Like I can explore by myself. I'm at a stage where I feel like if I needed resources, I know where to ask for help. But also I want to explore way beyond my family and my village. So yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to talk with me from my family about all the other stuff I've experienced, I'm more than happy. But so far nobody has cared. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Which, and just to let everybody know, this is you've got two forms, right? Essentially, and then a weapons form, or two weapons forms,
yeah,
right? That's basically it, right?
yeah, yeah. Two
There's no
forms,
secret
but
form. There's no secret closed door form.
no, no, there's no secret. The secret is just you got to do this every day for 6 hours a day for 10 years. That's the secret, man. I mean, there's just no other shortcut. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's what I've been told like throughout my life. As a kid, like just 3 hours is not enough. 3 hours is like a warm up. Like we're talking about 6 hours on average every day without a holiday,
Mm,
and do it for 10 years and you get like started. But this has been like kind of misunderstood by the public, which is to learn Tai Chi you gotta like practice for 10 years and before that you get nothing. No, that's not right. I mean, you can learn Tai Chi very quickly, but to be good at Tai Chi, to be good at this, there's no other shortcut. You just have to do it every day. And when I practice with my dad, it's
mm,
not like he's constantly telling me, some secret information. It's
yeah.
usually him just sitting there and me just practicing, and he just
Mm,
sits there and wait for me for like 6 hours, well, 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. But that's pretty much it. He doesn't really talk that much. And I think his main purpose is not to kind of teach me anymore, is to just supervise me or something. And so, yeah.
but I guess he's looking right and seeing if the quality is the
Yeah,
expression can they tell? Can they tell like, oh, your expression is better? Like,
yeah, that's funny. Because he's actually looking. He's definitely looking. He's not playing on his phone. He's not like sleeping. He wants to be there, and
TikTok, doing the TikTok videos,
yeah.
reaction videes. Oh, that's bad Tai Chi. Yeah, you should
Yeah,
do that. You should do
but
the reaction videos. That's bad Tai. That's terrible Tai Chi.
yeah, the funny thing is, like he wants to be there. He enjoys sitting there for 3 hours, and watches me like pretty, closely, and he never gets tired of it. I don't understand it, to be honest. Like I couldn't
Hold on
sit
one
there.
second.
Yeah,
Sorry. Oh, Sorry, my son came in. But
Ah,
he's
sorry.
looking. Your
He's
father's looking.
looking. Yeah. Uh, Hello, 안녕하세요. Hey. Uh,
Let me talk to Coco, okay? Uncle. But yeah, so your father's constantly looking and just, and he can tell, right? I mean, because he's looked at thousands of,
yeah,
if not tens of thousands,
of
right?
course. Like, and he doesn't really give me feedback either. That's the other weird thing. I don't know what's going on. So, fathers from Henan doesn't really talk to their sons. Uh, yeah, like I thought it was just me and my dad, but it turns out it's the same way everywhere in Henan. They don't talk. They only talk when there's a problem. Well, not even
Okay.
when there's a problem, when there's a big problem. Um, but yeah, like I mean, could you imagine like watching your son play football for 3 hours? Like you'll be bored and just start doing emails and stuff. But my
But
dad is like,
so
yeah,
so the fact that he didn't say anything means that there is no problem, right?
there's no problem. Yeah,
Right.
there usually is no problem. You just have to keep practicing and learn, and
Okay.
yeah, there's really no problem.
So so
Um,
so so I kind of want to react to what you're saying. It's like, look, I've done martial arts, but not like you. But I've done Chen, I've done Wing Chun. I've been doing Wing Chun for the last 3 years, and I've done Xingyi and Bagua and all that. And it's during COVID that I was like, I want to do something, but there's no good Bagua teachers here. There's no good
yeah.
Xingyi teachers here in Hong
Hmm.
Kong,
Hmm.
and Wing Chun is popular. And I came to the conclusion it's not the art, it's the teacher.
Hmm.
And then the power, like the best Wing Chun teachers will have the same power
Hmm.
and way as I think the best Tai Chi and the best Xingyi, right? It's just the form is
Yeah.
different, but the power
Hmm.
generation is the same.
Hmm.
And I've realized after doing Wing Chun with him, when I do Xingyi or when I do Bagua, like I've got more power.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is it always starts from the root, and even though you're experimenting and trying different things, maybe at the end of the day, you're gonna go back to Tai Chi and really show the true expression of what Tai Chi is because of the fact that you tried the Tai Chi principles in different arts, and you were able to use that to reflect on what is really, what is Tai Chi principles. And you're in
Yeah.
some ways you're playing the long term game. Maybe you don't know, maybe they don't
Mhm.
know, but
Yeah.
it's you're drawing the essence, or maybe you're trying to find the essence, or maybe you have
I
found it
mean,
already.
you're right. It's like drawing the dots. I mean, connecting the dots after, I've had the dots.
Right.
But to be honest, if I'm not like part of this family, I don't know if I'll end up going back to Tai Chi because I
Right.
started with Tai Chi, and I've gone to do so many things, and there are a lot of things that I'm just naturally more attracted to, and
Mm.
um, and I think because I started with Tai Chi and this whole like family expectation things, Tai Chi has become less attractive because of that, because it feels like an obligation. But would I ever come back to it? Maybe, I guess down the road. But it's really out of sort of like what do you call it, responsibility or some kind of obligation to come back. But yeah, like I mean, Tai Chi is interesting, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I,
Mm.
I much prefer being a student, because all the other teachers have done all the work and I'm just getting like,
Mm.
taught. That's a much better feeling. But if I go back to Tai Chi, it's almost like I have to start producing, and start synthesizing and then passing it on. And that's a lot of work. So I don't know.
I
I
think you'll
hope
get
somebody else
there.
does it, but if no one said, I guess I have to do it.
I think you'll get there. If I again, I've known you for a bit of time, but I haven't seen the martial arts side. I
Yeah,
think you'll get there. I think that's you just have to find. I mean, everybody has this, right? Their parents want to pass on something. They want to push it off for a bit. I'll tell you this. Once I think it's also maybe like once you start having kids,
yeah,
because I've actually realized that once I start having kids, actually want to show off my family. And growing up, I was like, I want to do my own thing. And because I think boys just tend to, right? They want to put their mark somewhere.
Hmm.
And then once you start having kids, then you kind of have to communicate, where are you from? Because they will ask, right? It's like, where are you from? What do you do? And what then realized is like, oh, so that's why like moving back to Hong Kong has been such a great thing. It's been like going back to my roots. And we talked
Mm.
about this last time, like, like, where's your root? Where's your
Yeah.
home?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think it becomes more acute once you start having kids because you have to have a home to raise
Yeah.
them, right?
Absolutely. I have yet to experience that, but yeah, I think maybe things will change. One thing that I really hope to change, but I don't think if it's possible, is I get treated like I'm some sort of a protege or something when I'm in Chen Village. Like people who come over to Chen Village, they know who my father is. They want to shake my hand. They want to take photos with me and stuff like that. And that's a horrible experience for me because I feel like I'm such an imposter. Like I probably don't know as much as they think I do. But I can't explain that to everyone because they came all the way to Chen Village to, see my father or someone like me. And then I can't tell them, hey, you know what? You guys are doing, Tai Chi just as good as me or better than me. You don't have to like shake my hand. I should be shaking your hand. I think you're doing better. So it feels really bad that I get treated like, I mean, I feel like I sound um, like a spoiled person, but yeah, that's how I feel. Like I'd rather be treated more like invisible, like a equal.
Mm.
And because like you said, like the royal family, whatnot. I mean, they're a symbol, right? And in a sense, that's all I am. I am a normal person plus a symbol, But yeah, like, and the simple part of it doesn't come with special power. Like, my chi is not like 10 times stronger than somebody else's chi, It's like the same. We're all the same. But I guess the real essence is when nobody in the world cares about Tai Chi, wants to do it, there's still gonna be people in Chen Village like me who will do it for nothing. That's the only difference. Yeah.
But that's a big difference. It's one other example is like like my father's into wines, right? So I'm into wines as well. And my father was so into wines. He got like a wine degree. We had a cellar
Wow.
in the house. I was drinking wine. I first had wine when I was 5, right? We went to Napa Valley. I said I'm really thirsty, and he's like, "Oh, have some grape juice," and he gave me grape juice. I was passed out. Um, and so I've been with wines all my life. So when people's like so whenever I go to restaurants and stuff, I know how to pick. Like it's in my bones, right?
Oh wow.
And a lot of people say like, oh, you're Chinese. How do you know wine so well? Like you're not. Are you not Chinese? And it's not like my dad was really like it's not like he had a chateau or anything, but he drank it all day long, right? And it was just part of his life. So I realized, so for a long time, I hated going to fine dining restaurants because I
Yeah.
was like, who am I? Why am I going to fine dining? What do I know about wine? I'm not French. But then I realized, like, even that little bit, and I only got 1% from him, but even that has already, put me in the top, I don't know, 5%. And so I guess you're right to some degree. Like, you're a bit of an imposter. But I think but on the other hand, like, because it's been in you, Tai Chi has been part of you as your culture for such a long time, you do grasp it differently. It's innate.
Yeah.
It's a reflex, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
It is a reflex. It's if like simple example. If I grab you, you're not going to tense up. You're going to relax.
Yeah.
Versus other people have to train so much more, right? You already have it in your bones, right?
Maybe.
And then you're just not
Um,
just like not tense. You just kind of you're already connected to the other person, and then you
yeah.
can throw them off if you want. But you're just connected and rooted at the same time,
Yeah.
instinctually.
Yeah. True. True. Um, Yeah, but like I learned how to kite surf like 3 years ago, and yeah, like I still tensed up. It's a
Yeah,
different, yeah, like we have to
yeah,
relearn how to
yeah.
relax almost every time. And the more time you relearn how to relax, I guess the better you get,
Better you
right?
get. Yeah,
Yeah, because yeah, with kite surfing, you're not faced with another human being. You're faced with like Mother Nature. And there's
right.
like a big gust of wind that's gonna, blow your kite, and then you get super nervous, tense up, and then Mother Nature teaches you a lesson. You get thrown into the
Right.
water. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it makes me think about like my army days as well. Like, you what we learned in the army wasn't the tactics, right? Shooting a gun, that type of thing. It's the mentality was different, right? It's the tension. Even when there's tension, you go. I was talking to my wife about it. I was like, yeah, I'm a bit programmed differently, right? And it's just I can't. I just suddenly realized it. And because you always think just that way is the normal way, and so I'm always like constantly trying to take a step back and like, what did I learn, and why am I what I am, and so when you do this, and it kind of makes me think like you're extrapolating, Tai Chi principles, right? Is your contribution to the fabric a form change, right? Like when I think Chen Fake did a form change, right? Maybe you don't do the form change, but maybe it's like highlighting principles that is a little bit more expandable to Western cultures, right? So they understand a little bit more, like because building blocks makes a lot of sense,
Hmm.
but probably for your family, it's like just do the form, you'll
Yeah,
get it, right? That type of thing, right? So maybe it's even the method of teaching and the philosophy, right? That you can help surface up.
maybe. We'll see. We'll see.
We all have to find our own expression.
Well, yeah. Well, dude, I mean, every time I talk with you, I always get inspired. I always get a lot of information, and it's always like really enjoyable to hear about your story as well. And today we talked too much about myself. Like next time, I love to talk, hear more about your story. And
No, no, this is great because you think I do podcasts for the other? I do podcasts for myself. Because when you talk about things, it makes me think, right? I was like, it gives me an opportunity to reflect, right? I was like, oh, the monarchy,
yeah.
and it makes me think, and I learn a little bit more about my frameworks, right? So
Wow. Well,
the
well,
learning
I
goes
feel
both
the same
ways.
way, like you really made me think as well, like I feel like there's so many things I want to think about even after this call, that's really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me cut this. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, don't worry, bro. Like I thought we are gonna do like a, more formal podcast, be,